The White House, the most famous building in America. But why is it here? The answer is crazier than you think. To understand this, we need to go back to 1790. America had just become a country, brand new, baby nation. Revolutionary War was over. The British were gone. Americans were hipped. But there was a problem. New York City was the first capital. George Washington was even inaugurated there. But it wasn't permanent. Northern states and southern states hated each other, and they couldn't agree on anything, especially where the capital should be. Alexander Hamilton had a massive problem. The country was drowning in debt from the war. He needed the states to work together. Thomas Jefferson wanted something different. He wanted the capital moved to the south, near his home turf, Virginia. So they made a deal. A secret dinner deal. One of the most important backroom deals in American history. The Compromise of 1790. Hamilton gets federal control of state debts. Jefferson gets the capital moved south. They chose a spot right on the Potomac River, the border between Virginia and Maryland, neutral territory. And guess who got to pick the exact spot? George Washington himself. He chose a swamp. Literally. Virginia and Maryland each donated land. Together they formed a perfect diamond, 10 miles by 10 miles. They called it the District of Columbia. Important detail, not a state, a federal district, controlled by nobody but Congress. Why? Because they didn't want any state to control the national government. Genius move, neutral ground forever. They hired a French architect named Pierre-Charles L'Enfant. This guy was ambitious. He designed wide avenues, grand circles, and the famous National Mall, a city built to impress the world. Building the White House took 8 years. 8 brutal years. Hot summers, freezing winters, no air conditioning. When John Adams moved in as the first resident president, the place wasn't even finished. Paint still wet. Then disaster. 1814. The British invaded Washington and burned the White House to the ground. Almost destroyed everything. They rebuilt it, painted it white to cover the burn marks. That's actually how it got its famous white color. True story. The White House rose from the ashes, more beautiful than before, a symbol of American resilience. But here's where it gets interesting. Remember how Washington picked the exact location himself? Well, George Washington owned a lot of land in that area. His Mount Vernon estate was just 16 miles away. Historians have found records showing Washington bought even more land nearby, right before the capital was announced. When D.C. was announced, land prices in the area skyrocketed. Washington and his friends made a fortune. Some historians believe the father of our country pulled off one of history's biggest real estate schemes. He got to build the nation's capital right in his own backyard, while his property values went through the roof. Was it patriotism? Was it profit? Probably both. Even founding fathers were human. But regardless of why it happened, Washington, D.C. became one of the most iconic capitals on Earth. Land around the new capital sold like crazy. Speculators went wild. It was basically early American Wall Street. Washington wasn't alone. Many founding fathers had investments in the area. Coincidence? You decide. Philadelphia was the temporary capital for 10 years. Then they packed up and headed south. Goodbye, Philly. In 1800, the government officially moved to Washington, D.C. The new capital was finally ready. Sort of. What started as a muddy swamp became the power center of the free world. 200 years of transformation. Today, Washington, D.C. stands as proof that even questionable beginnings can lead to greatness. And that's the real story they don't teach you in school. History is messy, complicated, and sometimes profitable. And that's why the White House is in Washington, D.C. Now you know what most people don't. If this blew your mind, smash that subscribe button and hit the bell. Share this with someone who loves history.